Ladies and gentlemen, brand concept is probably the most important concept in business these days. A lot of managers still don't really understand what a brand is. So I want to actually start with, very briefly, with the concept of a brand. What is a brand and what is the significance of a brand in business? So what exactly is a brand? Let's talk briefly about a brand. I'm going to start with the official definition endorsed by the American Marketing Association. This is an old definition. A brand is a name, term, design, symbol, or any other feature that identifies one seller's good or service as distinct, different from those of other sellers. So this definition exactly answers three questions. What is a brand? Why we need a brand? And how we can apply a brand in business. So what is a brand? A brand is a name. So for example, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Design, for example, the design of the cup of Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. And a symbol, so the famous swoosh, or even the design of the McDonald's or Burger King. Why do we need a brand? Because one brand identifies one corporation from another corporation. That's why we can distinguish between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Otherwise, we consumers wouldn't be able to distinguish between products. And finally, how? How do we apply branding in business? Well, we apply it by creating something distinct, highly unique. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't like this definition. I've been in this business for more than 25 years. I work with a lot of organizations, global organizations, as well as startups. I educated more than 15,000 of MBA managers on 3 continents, Europe, North America, and Latin America. And I don't like this definition. Why? Because this definition is very close to the definition offered by intellectual property lawyers. Let me present this definition right now. A trademark includes any word, name, symbol, or device, or any combination thereof that identifies, distinguishes, and indicates the source of goods. So I tell you, no, don't accept this definition. I like simplicity in business, so I'm going to present a definition that is simple for you to understand. A brand is an idea that exists in the collective memory of consumers. The key word in this definition is collective. So we have a first clue here. A brand is not something tangible. It's something that exists in the mind of consumers here. When I talk to managers and they tell me, I need to manage my product or my brand, I always tell them strategic brand management is about strategic perception management. If I ask you right now, what sort of associations, perceptions do you have towards Harley Davidson? Yeah. A rebel? A rebel? Excellent. Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, you're absolutely right. Wherever I am, it can be Japan, it can be Singapore, it can be Cracovia, it can be Guatemala, it can be Las Vegas, where I'm from. Every person around the world has the same associations related to Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson is about rebels, collective memory. If every person around the world had different perceptions towards Harley Davidson, the brand Harley Davidson wouldn't exist. So, collective memory. I want you to remember this. Brand is about collective memory. Ladies and gentlemen, consumers around the world make hundreds of definitions every single day. I need to buy a toothpaste. I need to buy a new computer. I need to buy a new car. I need to buy a present for my girlfriend or boyfriend. So consumers are faced with category needs every single day. Thousands of category needs. Computers, toothpaste, shoes, ropas. We are faced with thousands of different challenges every single day. One of the most important aspects of strategic brand management is the issue of similarity and typicality in the market. Ladies and gentlemen, look at these 2 brands. These 2 advertisements are not coincidentally identical. Whitens more than 3 shades for a noticeably brighter smile. Get a 3D white smile. Almost identical. The copy. Smiling woman, smiling woman. Product lineup, product lineup. A lot of managers would say, why? It's just copying our competitors. Why 3? Why not 4? Why not 5? Why not 2? Here is the thing about strategic brand management. If you want to position yourself against your major competitor, you need to be a little bit similar to your major competitor. That's why Colgate and Crest have very similar advertisements and brand positioning, because they deliberately position themselves against one another. Take a look at these two logos. Two of the most powerful luxury brands, Gucci and Chanel. There is no doubt that these two logos are highly similar, because brand managers working for these two companies deliberately chose one another as their major competitors. Let's move to another industry, automotive industry. Dodge Challenger, Ford Mustang, Chevy Camaro. These cars, they look very similar. There is no coincidence. In design, graphic designers are being taught that you need to create something disruptive, something new. That's graphic design. But in strategic brand management, first and foremost, you need to choose your competitor, one or two major competitors, your rivals. So you need to be similar to your major competitors. What about typicality? Every product category around the world is characterized by one brand that is considered a prototypical brand. For example, coffee. Right now, there is no doubt that Starbucks is a prototypical coffee shop. But Starbucks wasn't the first one, wasn't the second, wasn't the third competitor. And yet, Starbucks has been able to create a powerful brand that right now has become a prototypical for an entire product category. So we have a second lesson here. You don't have to be first in the product category. You can enter the product category very late, and yet you still can create a powerful brand. A lot of managers tell me, I need to create a new product because the product category that I want to enter already exists. So I need to invent a new product category. This management philosophy only shows that these managers actually don't know anything about strategic brand management. Being prototypical means that other rivals, potential rivals, will imitate you. Similarity and typicality are context specific, meaning that consumers make different comparisons in different situations. Let me illustrate it for you. There was a fascinating experiment done just a few years ago, and the researchers asked volunteers just a very simple question. What types of foods would you consider to be snacks? Here are the results. Apple, granola bar, popcorn, bagel, potato chips, pizza slice, chocolate bar. Then these researchers determined the overall typicality of these snacks. Potato chips, almost 80% of respondents would say that this is a typical snack. Pizza slice, 33%. Popcorn, 70%. Chocolate bar, almost 70%. Granola bar, 68%. Bagel, 46%. And apple, 62%. But then something extraordinary happened. They asked a different question. What food would you consider a snack on Friday night party? Look, everything changed. Still, potato chips, 82%. But then pizza slice from 33% to 81%. Popcorn from 70 to 79%. Look at the drop here, chocolate bar from 69% to 16%. Granola bar from 68% to 27%. Bagel also dropped from 46% to 26%. And apple also dropped from 62% to 30%. They ask another question, not Friday night, but what food would you consider a snack for breakfast? And here, everything changed again. Potato chips dropped significantly to 22%. Pizza dropped again to 44%. Popcorn from 79% to 24%. Chocolate bar increased from 16 to 37%. Granola bar from 72 to 75. Bagel from 26 all the way up to 84%. And Apple as well from 30% to 83%. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the third lesson here. Every product, every service is always context dependent. What is it exactly that consumers want right now at that hour? As brand strategists or managers, you need to know the answer to this question. So every brand is associated with the entire product category. And your job is to manage these associations between a brand and a product category. So every brand positioning is predicated based on category, product category associations, and brand uniqueness, differentiation. In brand literature, you will find these two terms, absolute position and relative position. Ladies and gentlemen, every category, every product or service category is characterized by certain associations, characteristics, attributes, and benefits. And in order to function in any product category, your brand needs to possess some of these characteristics. If your brand doesn't own these associations, characteristics, or benefits, it will never survive in the market. Let me play something for you.
Imagine a vehicle that can drive you 5 miles for a penny. A vehicle that needs no petrol, just a battery. And that takes the press of a button to start, the squeeze of a lever to stop. That needs no license, no road tax, and you can drive whether you're 14 or 40. A vehicle that costs just £399. The Sinclair C5. It's a new power in personal transport. The Sinclair C5, £399. Want to buy one? Want to see one? Or simply want to read all about it? Just dial 100 and ask for a free phone C5 now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen a commercial, TV commercial for Sinclair, a very unique vehicle that was introduced at the end of the 1970s, the beginning of the 1980s. It was a very unique vehicle, electric vehicle, but very, very efficient and very cheap. But it failed. Why? Because it didn't have any associations with existing product characteristics related to automotive industry. In the 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s, automotive industry was characterized by few benefits. A typical car needed to have 4 wheels. A typical car needed to be or have the combustion engine. So a vehicle like that violated all the industry norms. It didn't share anything with the product category. But here is the thing, it was an excellent product. It was way ahead of its time. It was technologically highly advanced. And yet, consumers didn't accept because it didn't share anything with the product category. Consumer psychology, ladies and gentlemen. So, every category is characterized by so-called point of parity. Again, every product category has certain characteristics, certain benefits, certain attributes. Let's take Google Glass. It was introduced in 2015. It was again a highly advanced product, but it didn't share anything with the existing associations and perceptions of consumers. That's why it failed miserably. So ladies and gentlemen, every brand should own some product characteristics. For example, when consumers think about headphones right now, they think about what brand? I can't read in your mind, by the way. Bose is a prototypical brand right now that characterizes entire product category. It wasn't the first one, not even the 10th. There were literally hundreds of other brands of headphones before Beats entered the market. When people think about energy drink, they think about Red Bull. It's a prototypical energy drink. When people think about online shopping, they think about what? Of course. all these brands managed to become a prototypical brand within their product categories by using strategic brand management. Not technology, not some brilliant ideas, just strategic brand management. So every brand needs to create the associations in the minds of consumers that are related to the entire product category. Computers wasn't the first one, no, not the second, not even the third in the computer category. There was actually another mega corporation, IBM, that owned the category almost in a monopolistic way. And yet, Apple, by using strategic brand management, was able to create a brand that owns creativity. Strategic brand management is all about the management of consumer perceptions and the relationship between these perceptions and the entire product category associations in the minds of consumers. This is the essence of strategic brand management. Brand management doesn't deal with products. It doesn't deal with tangible aspects of a brand. It deals with what's inside the minds of consumers, nothing else. So we can pose a question, can we change category perceptions in the minds of consumers? We can, but it's a very complex process. So right now, I want to briefly talk about few strategies that I selected, strategies for changing category perceptions. So how can we change the perceptions of consumers? I selected these 4 categories. Number 1, introduction of new products, categories. Then the second strategy revolves around new attributes that we can create and attach to our brand. We can introduce new communication techniques. And finally, we can focus on new distribution channels. Let me illustrate these 4 categories. Hermès. How many of you are familiar with this brand? It's one of the most luxurious brands in the world. It's a French brand of clothing. Very old one, more than 100 years old. How did they manage to change consumer perceptions? Well, actually, they forged a strategic alliance with Apple and they introduced Hermès iWatch. By doing this, they updated the perceptions of consumers. So Hermès right now is not associated with some old, outdated French luxury product. It's actually a very high-tech brand. New products. Let's take a look at Dyson. How many of you are familiar with Dyson brand? You know the brand. It's a cutting-edge brand, but the first product that actually Mr. Dyson created, he is an inventor, was a vacuum cleaner. This product achieved phenomenal success, but the owner of this company, Mr. Dyson, keeps inventing new products based on the same technology. Just introducing new products. That's it. Sometimes we can disrupt entire product category if we are able to introduce a totally different product based on, for example, a new technology. If we are able to do that, if we are able to introduce a new product, then we are going to change the boundaries of the product categories. And consumers, they attempt to understand new products and new product categories by fitting them into familiar categories. We call it in psychology cognitive schemes, and these schemes already exist in their brains. For example, we want to introduce new attributes within the existing product category. We need to remember, as brand strategists or business people, that consumers need to fit them into what is already in their minds. So, years ago, a company introduced a vitamin-infused soft drinks. They are promoted as simply soft drinks or carbonated beverages infused with vitamins. They didn't create entirely different product category. They entered the carbonated soft drink industry with a new attribute, like antioxidants or vitamins. If they created an entirely different product category, these products would fail because consumers wouldn't understand it. Whatever new product or feature or attribute they want to introduce, they need to fit in within what already exists in the brains of consumers. So this is just another soft drink plus vitamins or antioxidants. A lot of consumers had problems wearing baseball caps and wearing sunglasses. So this company, Notch, created a new attribute. So it's actually easier for a person to wear a hat and sunglasses. But it's just the same baseball hat. It's not a new product category. As you remember, or maybe not because maybe you're too young, but Toyota introduced the first hybrid and electric car, Prius. But here is the difference between Toyota and Sinclair that I showed you a few minutes ago. Sinclair was a weird vehicle, but here Toyota introduced basically a normal car. They didn't invent a new product category, electric cars. They integrated technology, electric technology, into the automotive industry. Sinclair wanted to create a totally different industry on three-wheelers. New communications. How can we change consumers' perceptions using this strategy? At the end of the 1990s, BMW Group, the owner of BMW cars, purchased an old British brand, Mini Morris, and they reintroduced it as simply Mini. It was a very small car, and a lot of consumers didn't like it, especially in the United States. American consumers didn't like this car. In Europe, it was a little bit different because Europeans actually like small cars. So what did BMW Group in the US to actually communicate this new brand? They followed this strategy, new communication. They introduced Mini car, Mini brand, right? Because it's a brand, by putting it on top of Chevrolet and driving around American cities like that. It was a new communication strategy. Just think about it. Putting a new brand, a small car, on top of one of the best American brands, Chevrolet. So Mini was actually poking fun, was ridiculing American automotive entire industry. Consumers noticed that, and they liked this new form of communication. It was funny. It was different. No one has done anything similar to that. So by introducing a new communication strategy, Mini was able to position itself as a really fun car. Red Bull used a similar strategy by transforming actually Mini brand cars into these cool looking cars with huge Red Bull cans and driving around the European cities and distributing free samples of Red Bull drink. New communication. You can change the way consumers perceive your brand by employing new communication strategies. You might think that the new communication strategy is just about creativity. Sure, to a certain extent, you need to be creative to come up with something like this. But at the same time, first and foremost, you have to be strategic. You need to know what your consumers want. You need to know what they feel. And you need to know what is it exactly that you want to achieve. What are your strategic objectives? A lot of managers would say, well, we just want to make money. That's not a strategic objective. It's actually the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard from business people. Profitability is a byproduct of your brilliant strategy, not an objective in and of itself. New communications, another example. One of the most popular Japanese designers, Yamamoto, forged a strategic agreement with another blockbuster brand, Adidas. And they formed a new brand. Why Y3? The first name of his last name and 3 stripes. Y3. But it's a new actually communications. It's not a new brand. It's an Adidas upgraded or infused with the creativity of the brilliant Japanese designer. That's how you make your brand relevant in the minds of consumers. This is not your typical Adidas, obviously, but at the same time, you need to understand that this brand tries to capture a totally different segment of consumers. Consumers who are looking for something more extravagant, yet something sporty. Consumers know that this is not really a new brand, it is Adidas and Yamamoto. But the communication of this new market entity is highly unique. Why 3 stores are brilliantly designed? They are based on this unique Japanese minimalistic aesthetics. There is a lot of concrete and a lot of monochrome colors. This strategy appeals to a very well formulated category of consumers. This business experiment between Yamamoto and Adidas has proved to be highly profitable. One more example. You know all these brands. You know who is the owner of these brands? PepsiCo. Andrew Pearson, former president of PepsiCo, said, "The majority of our strategic successes were ideas we borrowed from the marketplace, usually from small regional local competitors. These include Doritos, Tostitos, and Sabritas, with combined sales of over $1 billion. Each was developed by a different company in actually different countries. In each case, what we did, we spot a promising new idea, improve on it, and then out-execute our competitors." What does it mean for us? Again, we don't need to invent anything new, but we need to understand what consumers really want. PepsiCo brand strategists noticed a huge local cultural potential in these 3 brands. Ladies and gentlemen, PepsiCo didn't introduce these brands in Europe because culturally these brands are absolutely meaningless for Europeans. You need to understand cultural values. Every brand needs to resonate with cultural values. And then you can use a new communication strategy to communicate these cultural values. And the 4th strategy, new distribution channels. Every brand needs to experiment with new distribution channels. Why? Because consumers demand it. And you need to actually anticipate, not just know, but anticipate consumers' needs. It's easy to know what consumers want right here, right now. But your job is to anticipate, know what consumers will want next year. For example, right now strategic brand management is inextricably intertwined with a new discipline in management called business models. So right now, one of the most popular business models is based on the subscription. Just think about Netflix. The entire business model changed a few years ago when Netflix brand managers realized that subscription can become an extremely profitable business model. A lot of organizations are experimenting with new business models. Let me give you an example. One brand called Dollar Shave Club entered the marketplace in 2006 with razors for shaving. So you might think, well, right now, given the fact that Gillette is the most powerful organization that makes razors in the world, you need to be really insane to enter this category. Gillette has been doing razors since 1890. So more than 130 years. They had 70% of market share. So this one company entered the marketplace in 2006. So you might think, wow, their razors are probably based on some disruptive technology. Probably they're using some sort of laser to shave. Nope. They are actually very primitive because product doesn't matter. What matters is a strategic brand management and business model. Their business model is based on subscription. What does it mean? It means that consumers can actually subscribe, and every month the company would send them a little box with 10, 20, 30 cartridges for their razors. You can choose how many cartridges you want per month. So the product is primitive, it cannot compete with Gillette. But other benefits are being emphasized. Peace of mind. This brand emphasizes consumers' peace of mind, nothing else. Consumers subscribe and they don't need to think every month, oh, I'm missing a cartridge for my razor. So the business model is entirely based on understanding consumer psychology, not investing in some disruptive technologies. In 16 years, this very small company has taken over more than 23% of market share from Gillette. The production cost of their razors is less than $1. Compared to Gillette, Gillette spends at least $8, $9. This case shows you that what really matters in business, not only in strategic brand, know your target market. But when I say target market, I really mean the minds of consumers, not just consumer behavior. The second element is competitive environment. You need to know your competitors. You need to know what they are offering. And more importantly, you need to know what consumer needs their products satisfy. And the third element is, of course, your brand. What is the DNA of your brand? You know, something that you actually mentioned, the identity. But actually, identity is just one part of a brand. And actually, the most easy to create. Because brand identity, a term that is misunderstood by managers, refers only to the visual aspects of a brand. So, for example, logo, brand name, colors, aesthetics of the stores. This is brand identity. It's easy to create. But we also have brand personality. We also have the brand essence or brand DNA, which refer to the most important values that brand embraces. These are the elements that are actually very difficult to create, and they are based on market research. The problem is that 98% of managers around the world focus only on brand identity. And when they think about brands, they don't think in terms of business philosophy, but they think in terms of graphic design. And this is a huge, huge mistake. Back in the 1960s and 70s and even 80s, a very interesting business philosophy was popular. It was called customer orientation. It was all about just knowing your customers, but the brand as a concept was totally ignored. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, more and more organizations and managers understand the importance of brand philosophy, which means that the brand is front and center of every possible management activities. Every decision, whether it's manufacturing, human resources management, marketing, everything revolves around brand. Let me give you an interesting example. You're a human resource manager. Obviously, your job is to hire the best people. You might tell me right now, whoa, what human resource management has got to do with strategic brand management? When I start working on a new project with a new client, I always very carefully inspect human resource management department. You're probably surprised and curious why. If I see that an organization hires 70% of its workforce engineers, I know immediately that this organization doesn't want to build a strong brand. In another organization, if I see that 70% of employees are psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, I know that this is an organization that really focuses on building a strong brand. The first organization just wants to invest in technology. They don't want to get to know but the second organization invests in knowing their consumers. If you know your consumers, you're able to build a powerful brand. The best brands in the world right now: Disney Corporation, Starbucks, Apple. They haven't invented anything new. They don't invest in technological disruption, and yet they are the best. They conquered the world because they know two things: consumers' brains, literally, they use neuroscience. They use technology such as functional magnetic resonance imaging to know exactly how consumers think. This is not just psychology, ladies and gentlemen. It's biology. Thanks to neuroscience, we know what is happening in the brain, not the mind. And the second thing that these organizations are obsessed about is brand orientation. So every decision that they make answers one question: how can we contribute to the growth of our brand, not business? Organizations right now need to understand that making money is not an objective. I already said that. If you're able to build a strong brand that resonates with consumers, money will come to you like from the waterfall. And on that note, I would like to end this lecture. Good. Thank you. Thank you.